You already know the Sith are notorious for red lightsabers, but once you start digging, you realise that some of their most dangerous weapons were never lightsabers at all. By the end of this, you'll understand just how wide the Sith arsenal really is. From ancient superweapons to glass daggers constructed to insult their victims. Before the lightsaber, ancient Sith arsenal. Let's start way before the Rule of Two, before the Clone Wars, before anything we usually associate with Sith. The ancient Sith species and the early Sith Empire relied heavily on physical weapons, enhanced by the dark side, and one of the most iconic of those was the lanvarok. The lanvarok wasn't just a polearm, it was a two-handed weapon that could launch poison-coated discs, guided by the dark side itself. It began as a hunting tool, but in the hands of the Massassi warriors who served Dark Lord Naga Sadow during the Great Hyperspace War, it became a battlefield weapon used in both melee and ranged combat. What makes it interesting is that it was originally designed for the natural left-handedness of the Sith species, and later adapted by human Sith Lords with right-handed versions. These weapons were cultural extensions of who the Sith were, and that idea carries forward. Take the parang, originally a curved agricultural blade used to clear undergrowth. It evolved into a thrown Sith weapon that returned to the wielder like a boomerang. The pureblood Sith used it long before it became obscure and rare after the Sith species extinction. But not all Sith weapons were about brute force. Some were purely for cruelty. Shikkars were intricate, force-crafted glass daggers used heavily by the Lost Tribe of the Sith on Kesh. They were designed for one use only. After stabbing someone, the wielder snapped the hilt off, leaving the blade embedded inside the victim's body. The death was exceptionally painful, and many Sith considered that insult part of the point. These weapons were expressions of dominance, identity, and sometimes humiliation, and they get even darker. Alchemy, poison, and ritual power. The Sith didn't just forge weapons out of metal and crystals, they also used the Force itself as a weapon. Sith poison is one of the clearest examples. It wasn't just a toxin. It was a product of Sith alchemy that amplified rage inside the victim, feeding on their anger and chemically breaking down their resistance to the dark side. It could be injected, ingested, or even applied through an exposed wound, and once absorbed, it pushed the victim toward involuntary dark side outbursts. Crate leader Satal Keto used it on Jedi Knight Ulic Qel-Droma, and the effects were immediate and catastrophic. Ulic unleashed the dark side so violently that he destroyed the torture device restraining him. The poison continued influencing him until he murdered his own brother, Kay. Only the shock of that act finally broke its hold. So when we talk about Sith weapons, we're also talking about psychological warfare. That brings us to something even more extreme. The thought bomb wasn't a physical device you could swing or fire. It was the result of a ritual, unified Sith Lords focusing the dark side into a single detonation. When it went off on Ruusan in 1000 BBY, under Lord Khan's Brotherhood of Darkness, it annihilated nearly all Force-sensitive life within range, and trapped their souls in a vortex of torment. It originated from knowledge tied back to Darth Revan's holocron, and even earlier to Vitiate's ritual of Nathema. And more than 1,000 years later, those trapped spirits were still there until freed by Jedi Knight Kyle Katarn. And yet somehow, the Sith built something even larger. If you were enjoying the Star Wars deep dive, it's pretty much all we do here, so you might want to stick around. The Dark Reaper and the Forced Harvester. If you've never looked into the Dark Reaper, this is where things get mental. Created during the Great Hyperspace War on Thule, the Dark Reaper was a Sith superweapon powered by something called the Force Harvester. The Harvester drained the living force from everything within range, focusing it into destructive beams. Entire ecosystems could be wiped out just to charge it. During the Clone Wars, Count Dooku reconstructed it after locating the Forced Harvester on Raxus Prime. He tested it on a Kashyyyk moon, killing half the forest in a single wave. He then used it on Mon Calamari, Agamar and Bakura to gather more energy before activating the Reaper again on Thule. Anakin Skywalker ultimately destroyed it in the Battle of Thule by targeting the Harvester with a blaster fire from his TX-130 fighter tank. And here's what's important. The Dark Reaper couldn't harvest a wound in the Force. That limitation is subtle, but it shows that even Sith superweapons have boundaries within the metaphysics of the Force itself. Variations of the blade. Now let's pivot back to handheld weapons, because this is where variety really takes shape. The contained energy axe looked like a vibro axe until activated. Once powered by a diatium cell, it powered a magnetically contained plasma edge along the blade, allowing it to slice through most materials while still relying on physical strength for impact. Then you have the sickle-bladed lightsaber of Darth Noctis, curved like a scimitar. It's still a lightsaber, but the altered blade shape changes combat dynamics entirely. The Light Club, sometimes called a Great Lightsaber, extended up to 3 meters in length and required immense stature to wield effectively. And before the modern lightsaber ever existed, the Rakata developed the Force Saber. These weapons channeled dark side energy through the laboratory-grown Ebon crystals, shaped via alchemy. Some resembled traditional lightsabers, others were closer to pikes. They required Force hounds to construct them, and their technological principles eventually influenced early Jedi prototype sabers, the Inquisitors and weapon engineering. Fast forward to the Galactic Empire. The Inquisitors didn't just carry standard lightsabers. Their double-bladed spinning sabers could function single or double-bladed, rotate in a circular motion, and even allow flight through a combination of micro-repulsor lifts and spinning blades. Some versions included a rotating razor blade mechanism capable of slicing dangerously close to opponents. Ezra Bridger nearly lost his hand to it, and range combat wasn't ignored either. The Inquisitor's rifle used by Imara Vex incorporated half of an emitter ring from the Inquisitor lightsaber design and fired red blaster bolts. The Praetorian Arsenal. Now here's something people sometimes overlook. Supreme Leader Snoke's elite Praetorian Guard didn't wield lightsabers, but their weapons were engineered to resist them. The Vibrovulge, Electro Bicento, Vibro Arbor blades, and Bellari Electro Chain Whip all combined tempered metal, ultrasonic vibration generators, and electroplasma filaments. These enhancements allowed them to parry lightsabers directly. During the battle aboard the Supremacy in 34 ABY, these weapons clashed against Rey and Kylo Ren after Snoke's assassination. Despite their advanced design, all 8 guards were killed. What's interesting is that this represents a modern evolution of Sith-aligned weapon philosophy. If you can't wield a lightsaber, build something that can survive it. Weapons of dark authority. Even Darth Vader, after losing control of his Force powers due to a Force wave, wielded an electrostaff capable of firing beams and electricity. When the Force was compromised, the Sith adapted. And we can't leave out the Scepter of Ragnos. Originally belonging to Marka Ragnos, it could siphon and store darkside energy, then release it to make ordinary beings Force sensitive. Tavion Axmis used it in 14 ABY to empower members of the Disciples of Ragnos before Jedi Knight Jaden Korr destroyed it. The Sith don't just build tools to win fights, they build tools to reshape power and take it for themselves. When you line all of this up, poison that corrupts from within, super weapons that drain entire worlds, glass daggers meant to insult, spinning sabers engineered to intimidate, you start to see something consistent. Sith weapons are instruments of domination, and they were always constructed to bend either the Force or people to their will. Let me know in the comments which one of these weapons surprised you the most, and if you were a Sith, which one would you use? If you enjoyed this video, consider hitting subscribe, and let's uncover the galaxy's greatest secrets together. Thanks for watching.